everyone, and welcome to another edition of Booming Encore's Learning Bites. My name is Susan Williams, and I'm the founder of Booming Encore. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to challenge how we live and work, and a great example of this is that many people are actually finding themselves working at home for the first time or for an extended period of time. And this sudden disruption in our workplaces has caused, some people to have to quickly react and respond to this new working environment. In our first of our virtual workplace series, we had the opportunity to speak with Dr. Sean Hayes. Dr. Sean Hayes is a clinical psychologist and co-founder of Coheasio, and we talked about what some of these impacts of this new virtual working environment is. Today, I'm delighted to bring him back and actually have a discussion around what we all can do to actually thrive in this new workplace. So welcome, Dr. Hayes.
Great to have you back. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me back.
So Dr. Hayes, this is the first time, or it may be, an extended period of time for a lot of people to actually work from home. What suggestions would you have to actually make this a positive experience for them?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And as I think we discussed before, one of the biggest things that a lot of people have to identify is even if I have worked from home, it doesn't mean I, my spouse, and my children who may be in college or university are also at home. So I think the first thing is to recognize it's not just 4 people working from home. It's actually a virtual team at home. And you have to really look at what kind of workspace do you need? What kind of access do you need? Where's quiet time needed and why? Who needs quiet time? It might be, in fact, your son who's studying for his exams takes precedence over you and your spouse. So I think that opportunity of really looking at your workspace and talking about it collectively. What are your needs, not just this week, but as we know, this is probably going to be this case at least through till the summer. So how are you going to plan this so you're not on top of each other, so that they can be respectful of each other's work and time? So I think that's key, is really sort of mapping out an agenda together of access to resources, particularly if you're in a smaller space where voices could carry or teleconferences can seem very loud. You're really going to have to think that through and put together an agenda.
Yeah, one of the other things we actually talked about in the last segment was also that sort of invasion of privacy, or that feeling of privacy. Are there some suggestions there that you have to try and manage that?
Yeah, I'd say that's a work in process for me. I think you said it well, Sue. I said, I think we do need to really reimpose the door concept, whether it's virtual or otherwise. I think you said something about you hung a sign. Is that correct?
No, we implemented something called Respect the Door.
Well, that is something I think we all need to reimpose. And that also means, your 5-year-old may say, Mommy, I need a door right now. And I think they need to recognize those feelings and be able to say, I need a door from you. Mm-hmm. So I do think there's a real need to establish boundaries, probably much more so than we ever have before. Not just boundaries for within the workday or school day, but also thereafter. So boundaries around the television, radio, when you're on these, because we can speak loudly, and work that out, or you will have an overlap.
And also the background that we have. Like, for instance, I know myself, I've consciously taken a very plain background because I share a lot of myself, through my writing and things like that. So I wanted to, I'm letting people sort of into my home, but I'm also kind of managing that. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's critical. I think we mentioned that before, particularly because for some people, your boundaries, not only here, but also through the virtual world. I think for some people, it may be very comfortable. They don't mind if there's dirty laundry in the background. But I think you do have to realize that communicates a message to your peers, to people that you're on phones with. If it feels consistently uncontrolled in the background, once or twice, maybe it's funny, but if it feels consistently, it's going to start to undermine your potential value as a professional.
Absolutely. The other thing I personally discovered is always be ready for video, even though somebody says, oh, we're going to use audio. You just never know. If video is an option, you should make sure that you're looking the way you would like to for those potential video calls that may actually come at you, rather than it being strictly audio.
Well, this is the funny thing. I think most of us have kind of our professional wardrobe, correct? And there's the professional casual, professional formal, and then there's our casual. I don't really think that should change. Mind you, that's from here up. Most of us are safe with what to wear. Jeans below. But I do think, because those kinds of things will stick. And unfortunately, if you are consistently appearing not taking the time to take care of yourself, not taking the time to a peer professional within reason, that's going to come across overall.
And what about structuring your day? Like, I know that you mentioned structuring it with the family and who's doing what when, but what about the actual work structure of the things that you need to get done?
Yeah, that's sort of very much, I think, in flux these days, because I think the traditional 8:30 to 5 has certainly been expanded. I believe, and I would recommend strongly in the coaching and consulting we do with management, that also this is not the time to worry about when and how somebody is doing something. I think that's key. Managers and leaders need to realize maybe it doesn't matter if it's not being done within the 8 to 5 period. It may be more practical for your employee to do it at 8 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night, because during the day they may have to do homeschooling. So I think I'm less concerned, or I don't think it's a need to worry about how things are being done, as long as with your employees, deliverables and outcomes are being met and deadlines and goals are clearly decided. I just don't think it's a time to overemphasize on how you're getting there, because there is going to be last minute changes. There's going to be realities in the middle of the day that are going to come up that we do have to respond to.
And just on that same sort of thought pattern, so managers are going to have to make some significant changes here in this new workplace, virtual workplace then.
Yes. Well, I'm going to sound very strange here. In the working and consulting I'm saying yes and no. So I'm going to contradict myself. I think to a great extent, they still need to stay very focused on deliverables, very clear about timelines, and those need to be reiterated, timelines and goals, because it's going to give a sense of trust and a sense that as a manager, you're still in charge, that you know where we're going. But I do think there needs to be flexibility of how you expect your employees to perform and when. And I do think, in addition, one of the things I'm coaching and speaking to managers about is finding a way to show that you care without necessarily overstepping boundaries. You're not their therapist, and you shouldn't become therapist. You're not, their best friend. You need to maintain that you have a certain leadership role, and that has to be maintained. But I do think it's just about small gestures from management right now that can show how you care. That could be body language, notes, how you open up the beginning of a meeting, just to be a little more recognition of that there may be challenges, but without necessarily all of a sudden launching into Dr. Phil or Oprah with you, with your employees, because I think it is important to keep some sense of boundaries about your role.
And as well, from a team perspective, I mean, a lot of people really enjoy working in physical proximity to a team, and this is definitely a change. So what can people possibly do to help them make them feel that they're still connected with their team?
I think that's an excellent question, and one that I think a lot of us aren't quite sure of. This might sound sort of trite, but I think it's important. One of the things that effective teams do when they're in shared space is they help each other out. If you and I were working together and you were overloaded, which can happen all the time, I could quite naturally say, even if I don't do your job, do you need some help? Can I do that editing for you? Can I review this process? I think that's something we need to go back to now. I think within our team, there likely are some who are overloaded and some who aren't. What's stopping us from saying, hey, can I help you with some of that work? It's within the same team. There's no release of anything confidential. You would do it anyway. So just now reinforce that. We are a team. We're here to back each other up. Can I help you with anything? Is there some work I could get filed for you or processed or whatever particular task? Can we work together on something you're overloaded with? Those are the things we do in the office corridors. Now I think it's just time to put that space into our weekly check-ins, our daily meetings, and to ensure that we reinforce that, which will build that sense of team.
Some great suggestions there. And finally, if somebody has found themselves working at home, is this a good time to maybe do some other things they maybe didn't necessarily do before?
Yes, and I do think, and perhaps this is going to sound oversimplistic, and hopefully you will criticize me if you think I'm being too so. I think most of us have a little extra time sometime during this period because we're not in the same structure of having to leave the house, go to the office, commute. What I would suggest is this may be a time to really do a bit of self-evaluation professionally. Recheck your last professional development evaluation. Think of some of the things you wanted to achieve. Think about kind of the training that you wanted to develop, or is this a time to find a mentor, which could, by the way, be somebody in your team? Is this a time to be a mentor? Maybe this is a time to offer through your manager, could I act as a mentor to the junior employee who's just come in? This might be a time to look for online courses. There's a lot of free courses available, not all for charge. There are some, of course, that require some certification. But this may be a really great time to begin to think of, maybe I could use whatever additional time I have to pursue what I want to become professionally, because it's not in the noise and the hubbub of the office. There is some decompression time. And this, by the way, might look really good to your leadership and your management, that you're willing to take this effort and use this time to pursue what you want to do in the benefit of the corporation. Might be an opportunity to work with your company. They might support you taking a course at this time.
Yeah, and some great ideas. I think we need to stay positive, and so possibly, doing some of these actions that'll help us in the future reminds us that this will eventually end, and it gives us the opportunity to really take a look at where we want to go, and often we don't have that time when we're in the real rucks of the whole daily grind, that now we
Exactly.
maybe have a little bit of breathing room, and so that might be something that's a very positive action to take at this point.
I think it could be positive. It'd give you a sense of a vision of where you're going. It also gives us a sense of continuity. Yes, this is a different medium, the way you and I are interacting now, but there's a lot of what we're doing that is aligned with what we want to do professionally. It's what we enjoy to do. It's why we chose these jobs, or perhaps to rethink if you didn't want to choose this job, why. I think this is a great time to do this, and it'll give us a sense of being anchored and taking back some sense of control, which for many of us might feel a bit lost. Well, now's the time to take control. Think about what you want to be in a year professionally, and make some goals towards that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. I
Thank
really appreciate it.
Mine too. I appreciate it. It's been always very interesting. I've learned a lot. Thank you.
And to everybody out there, I hope you found this information valuable and it helps you live your best booming encore. Bye for now, everyone.
Take care.